I'm Anna Garcia, right now on True Crime News. A police body cam rolls as cops doing a welfare check find an entire family of 4 wiped out.
We got mail, we got open doors.
Detectives are baffled, and what they uncover is almost too bizarre to be believed. A fatal attraction love affair, a fiery car crash, and a case of catfishing linked to a drug cartel? Who was pulling the strings is the biggest surprise of all. Plus, a wild night in a bar ended in death.
I came home and he was dead.
And with one woman sentenced to life in prison. But did the jury get it wrong?
There's absolutely no forensic evidence that points to Kim as being the killer.
The fight to free Kimberly Long.
At some point, I knew I was going to walk out.
How her name was finally cleared after 7 years behind bars. Plus, my one-on-one interview with Dr. Phil about his mission to reopen the case of death row inmate Robert Roberson. Your daily source for true crime starts right now. Thanks for joining us. It was a Sunday night last September when police were dispatched to check on a suburban Illinois family after they hadn't been heard from. What cops found was an unfathomable scene. The couple, along with their 2 sons, had been shot to death. After a year-long investigation, this twisted whodunit would reveal itself as one of the craziest catfish cases ever. It was supposed to be a routine well-being check for the Romeoville Police Department in suburban Chicago. The family of Zoraida Bartolome and Alberto Rolone were concerned. They hadn't heard from the couple after Alberto didn't show up for work. And as they looked through the windows of the family home the couple shared with their 2 young boys,
Hey, I got a TV knocked over and a coffee table knocked over.
things are suddenly far from routine.
Oh God, dogs are dead. 2 dead dogs.
Officers make their way inside.
We got mail, we got open doors.
What they found was a gruesome discovery.
Zoraida, Alberto, and their 2 young sons, even their 3 dogs, are found brutally executed in their home.
What was so disturbing to neighbors is that police were very quick to say this was not a murder-suicide.
Chicago's Fox 32 reporter Casey Cronus tells True Crime News neighbors were stunned to learn that the Kind family had been targeted, and using evidence collected at the crime scene, police zeroed in on a suspect.
I gotta ask, did you have anything to do with this? Okay.
And it was then determined and confirmed that Nathaniel Huey Jr. was the main suspect in these killings.
Open up for me.
Nathaniel Huey, a colleague of Zoraida, agrees to have his DNA swabbed, but when investigators ask to search his car,
Will you give us consent to look in your Denali just for like blood or something?
There's no blood in my car. I haven't done anything.
but the truth is about to come to light when it's uncovered that Nathaniel and Zoraida had been having a secret affair behind the backs of Zoraida's husband and Nathaniel's girlfriend, Ermelinda Palomo. Ermelinda agrees to talk to cops and tells them how she found out about the other woman, Zoraida.
I was in his car, and on his thing, that name came up. I said, who is that?
She immediately denies knowing the murdered woman.
Have you ever met Zoraida?
No,
You seen a picture of her?
no.
But in a shocking twist, detectives will determine that Ermelinda was in fact the mastermind behind the quadruple murder. According to the investigative report, Ermelinda was so jealous of Nathaniel's mistress, Zoraida, that she hatched a plot to kill her. And how she did it is almost unbelievable. Over a series of months, Ermelinda created a series of phony identities, then contacted Nathaniel posing as an operative for a drug cartel.
Ermelinda had been pretending to be members of the cartel, messaging on social media and texting him, directing him that he needed to kill this family.
She even convinced Nathaniel that his own life was in danger if he didn't do it. The entire time, Nathaniel had no idea that it was Ermelinda who was ordering the murders of Zoraida and her entire family. But in another strange twist, Nathaniel and Ermelinda go on the run before police can connect the dots.
Less than 72 hours after these murders, it was reported that there was a fiery interstate crash in Catoosa, Oklahoma, and this was tied to this quadruple murder.
Murder suspects armed and dangerous, still inside the vehicle.
The SUV they were riding in hit the median of the interstate in Oklahoma, sending the vehicle into flames.
Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out now!
And a shocking turn of events. Nathaniel fatally shoots his girlfriend and himself. Police believe Nathaniel never knew he was part of an elaborate ruse about a fake cartel, a twisted game of jealousy that also claimed the precious lives of 2 young boys.
We may never know all of the details about this case because everyone involved has passed away. And sadly, and this is what disturbed neighbors so much, is that those 2 innocent young boys, that their lives were taken too.
This is one of those horrific cases where there is no justice to be had. Now we turn to our next story. Kimberly Long's nightmare began when she came home from a night out and found her boyfriend, Ozzie Condi, dead on the couch. She had no idea how much worse things would get. For nearly 13 years, a beautiful young nurse and single mom named Kimberly Long had been steadfastly proclaiming she didn't do it. But someone brutally bludgeoned her boyfriend, Ozzie Condi, to death in what the prosecution portrayed as a bloody crime of passion. And despite being sentenced to life in prison where she languished, many were convinced Kimberly was indeed innocent.
There's absolutely no forensic evidence that points to Kim as being the killer.
I mean, if I'm on the jury, I'm thinking this is an impossibility. I mean, this is not just a reasonable doubt, this is impossible.
After failed first marriages, Kim and Ozzie, childhood sweethearts, reconnected. In an interview, Kimberly talked about their love story.
Even as kids, I thought for sure we were gonna, we'd be together.
And began building new lives together in the Los Angeles suburb of Corona. They were kind of like the Brady Bunch.
He has 3 kids, and I had 2. So I was excited. I bought an expedition, to fit everybody in, so we can all go camping together. So I was really excited. I felt good about having a big family. I was looking forward to it.
But on that fateful day of October 6, 2003, their dreams of a bright future together would explode when the couple decided to let their hair down on a drinking binge while the kids were away for the weekend.
We started about 10 o'clock that morning, I think, 10 or 11 o'clock. We were at Chuckwagon. So, I started from there.
And continued to drink on an all-day bar-hopping bender.
I had a lot.
And by the time Kimberly and Ozzie arrived at their last stop of the night, the Maverick Saloon, she was hammered and well primed for a drunken late-night lover's tiff.
We had a good time, but Ozzie thought I was being too flirtatious. I talked to a lot of different people, and so an argument ensued. So I started getting irritated at him. I felt like he ruined my time.
They left the Maverick and continued to argue in the driveway of their home.
I told him that I wanted him to leave. He wasn't gonna leave, so I left.
With a friend named Jeff Dills who had accompanied them home from the Maverick. Kimberly ended up in Dills' hot tub before he dropped her back home again in the early hours of the morning.
So I walked into the house. The first thing I saw was a big blood stain on the arm of the couch.
Then she saw Ozzie lying unconscious on the couch.
There was blood everywhere on him. So I walked up to him and I looked at him and I called his name and nothing happened. And when I was really looking at him, what I saw, I think that's when the panic hit and I just started freaking out. And I ran in the kitchen and I grabbed the phone and I called 911.
I just came home. He's bloody. I don't know what's going on. He's still breathing. He's wrong. He's blood. Where's the blood at? Oh,
And I remember taking off my jacket, and I remember reaching over and I grabbed Ozzy by his hand. Because I'd figured like something's gonna arouse him. Something will arouse him. Get him by his hand, get him to like get up. But once I did that and he lifted up, he made a noise.
Known as the death rattle.
And that's when I just started screaming and I ran outside. And at that point, every cop car, every ambulance, everything showed up right in that moment.
First responders were shocked by what they found.
It was one of the more brutal scenes that I've seen in a long time. We were pretty much struck by the amount of blood that was in this room.
And Ozzy was dead at the scene from blunt force trauma to the head.
It seemed like all of the trauma came from the side, near his ear, near the back of the head. So he could have been just resting on the couch and being struck from behind.
Coming up, Kimberly becomes the prime suspect in Ozzy's murder, and her fight for freedom begins. We're back with Kimberly Long's fight for freedom after coming home to find her boyfriend Ozzy bludgeoned to death on their couch. She thought that things couldn't get any worse, and then cops charged her with murder.
They literally had to put me in the back of a cop car, trying to keep me in there, just trying to keep me calm.
Police take the 27-year-old nurse and single mom, Kimberly Long, in for questioning, where she is in despair and sobbing.
It's done. It's over. It's over. My whole life is over. He was my life. He was everything to me.
She insists she didn't murder her 31-year-old boyfriend, Oswaldo Ozzy Condi.
I came home and he was dead on my couch.
Kimberly had also submitted to a lie detector test just hours after her initial police interrogation.
Did you lie to me when you said that you have no knowledge of the person or persons who killed your boyfriend?
No. I knew I didn't do anything. I mean, I had no problems taking this exam.
Probability of you being deceptive is less than 0.01%. As far as I'm concerned, this lady's telling me the truth.
But police seem convinced Kimberly is Ozzy's killer.
I had realized in that moment that they were going to blame me for this.
Kimberly is charged with second-degree murder, despite the fact that police have no hard evidence linking her to the crime scene.
They just pointed at me.
Kimberly's first trial ends with a hung jury, but on retrial, a jury astonishingly finds her guilty. In fact, the judge publicly disagrees with the verdict.
He said that he would have found me innocent if it was a bench trial.
But by law, the judge has no choice but to sentence her to 15 years to life. Kimberly would languish behind bars for more than 7 years before her case came to the attention of the California Innocence Project, which defends those believed to have been wrongly convicted.
There's absolutely no forensic evidence that points to Kim as being the killer.
And this is not just a reasonable doubt, this is impossible.
No murder weapon has ever been found, no blood on Kimberly or her clothes, even though first responders were stunned by the amount of blood at the crime scene.
As we went in, we noticed that it was just on every surface of almost every article in the room. It was on the floors, it was on the walls, it was on the curtains.
It was impossible not to have his blood on her.
But the prosecution hung their case on the timeline evidence of Jeff Dills, who told police he had dropped Kimberly home around 1:30 a.m. on the night of the murder. But there was one major problem. Kimberly's defense team can't dispute Dills' timeline because in a tragic twist of fate, he'd been killed in a motorcycle accident before she went on trial. Then the Innocence Project's investigation finds two independent time-of-death experts who support Kimberly's account.
We have two doctors, or medical examiners, and both of them have said that Ozzy was dead long before Kim got home.
With this new forensic evidence, a judge finally overturns Kimberly's murder conviction. Kimberly walks out of court into the waiting arms of overjoyed friends and family.
I knew I was going to walk out. I knew it was gonna happen. I just didn't know when. I'm excited, very excited about everything.
Kimberly's new life could finally begin, starting all over again back at her parents' house.
God. That's my girl.
But the most precious gift of all for Kimberly was being reunited with her two children.
When it comes to the kids, you know, it's very emotional. You know, my kids were 5 and 10, and now they're 18 and 23.
As of now, Kimberly has moved on. There's just one issue left unsolved. Ozzy's killer has never been found. Kim says she can do nothing to change that.
Where do you begin? And it's not my job. The cops should have done their job.
Next, my one-on-one interview with Dr. Phil about his mission to reopen the case of death row inmate Robert Roberson. Now for a true crime news update. Monday at the Texas State Capitol, a number of high-profile advocates for Robert Roberson pleaded with the lawmakers that a jury needed to re-examine his case. He was set to be executed last week for the 2002 killing of his 2-year-old daughter. It was based on the debunked theory of shaken baby syndrome. Among those testifying was television host and Texas resident Dr. Phil McGraw. He's been a champion for Roberson's case, and I spoke with him moments after he finished his powerful testimony. Dr. Phil, what has your interest been in this case?
This is a man that has been on death row for 21 years. He's autistic, and he has been convicted on science that has now been debunked. The medical community has determined that that is simply not a valid diagnosis.
Dr. Phil spoke with Roberson for an interview airing tonight on his Merritt Street media show. Roberson says even the detective who investigated the case says he is innocent.
Does he still believe you're guilty?
He believes I'm innocent. He's out there fighting for me.
What I do know from looking at the records is this man has not been afforded due process, and he has not gotten a fair trial. If we are going to deprive someone of their life, that comes at a very high standard.
Dr. Phil, it's my understanding that some jurors said that once they heard shaken baby syndrome, that they couldn't focus on anything else.
That's correct. And I met one of the jurors today in Texas who listened to my testimony and was very distraught and saying, we never heard any of these alternative explanations. We didn't know she had pneumonia. We didn't know she had been to the doctor and or hospital 46 times in 23 months of life. He has sat on death row for 21 years. And he needs a new trial, and I think he's entitled to it. So it's not a perfect system. We don't always get it right, and we need to have the courage to step up and admit it when we get it wrong.
Thank you, sir. You can watch my full interview with Dr. Phil on truecrimenews.com. For the latest breaking crime news, go to truecrimenews.com. Watch more exclusive content on our YouTube channel, listen to our podcast, and follow us at My True Crime News. That's it for today's True Crime News. I'm Anna Garcia. Join us next time, everyone. Crime doesn't stop, and neither do we.